All right, viewers, we are now joined by Kurt Volker, a former U.S. envoy to Ukraine under President Trump's earlier administration. He joins me live from Kiev. Mr. Volker, good to have you back on the show. We spoke last time. You were at the Munich Security Conference. How do you see things as they stand right now? Well, there is still an elusive peace accord.
Well, thank you very much. I'm speaking with you here from Kiev, Ukraine. I'd say the mood here is a combination of hope and dread. There is hope that 2025 may in fact bring an end to this war, or at least some kind of peace. But there's also dread that Ukraine may end up being forced to pay a very high price for a temporary and unjust peace. And so there is concern about that. The new things are that Putin is in his weakest position that he has been since this war began. Ukraine has gradually rebuilt some strength, I would say, including in its own homegrown defense industry, but it faces difficulties with manpower and the population is very tired. And then you have US President Donald Trump, who is determined to push for an end to the fighting this year, but the details of where that really goes beyond an end to the fighting are still not very clear. And this is going to result in some kind of negotiation. And of course, Putin is insistent on demanding Ukraine's full surrender.
Okay, so you are in Ukraine. Tell us, how are Ukrainians really feeling right now, considering that they've pretty much been left out of this entire peace talk so far?
Well, there are a lot of consultations between the US and Ukraine, also between the US and European allies. So it's not as if no one knows what the other's positions are and what they're thinking. And this is a bilateral channel for US and Russia to talk. The issue is not so much the fact that Ukraine is not physically at that table. It is that they don't actually trust or know what Donald Trump is going to do. And so they're concerned, as you say, that things might be discussed or agreed there that they would not be able to agree to. And then it would look as though they are the ones opposing a settlement rather than it being Russia that has unreasonable demands, which is actually the case.
Okay. There seems to be some sort of a momentum in terms of the peace process. Do you share that optimism that there is a momentum now?
Yes, I do. I think that's right. I think that President Trump has created that momentum. He's pushed for negotiations. He's engaged with Putin directly. He has made it clear that it is a top priority of his. And where I think this is likely to go is that there will be a ceasefire in 2025. There will not be a proper agreement with Russia because Russia will have unreasonable demands. And there will be an effort by Europe to help Ukraine deter Russia violating that ceasefire and launching new attacks, that there would be some kind of deterrent force, some kind of security assurances, and ideally some kind of US backup to that deterrence force, because Russia is not willing to make reasonable arrangements. That is what I think is likely to happen. And then we'll enter a period of time where we have a dispute, but perhaps one that is not being dealt with by military offensives.
Okay. So then what really happens? Because, US is very clear that they are not going to they're not going to give any of these security guarantees to Ukraine.
Yeah, I think what is possible is you would have European NATO members having boots on the ground, so to speak, in Ukraine. They would be there in a training and equipping mission and assisting Ukrainians, especially with air defense. NATO countries, Poland and Romania, could potentially extend some air defense coverage over Western Ukraine from their own territory. You could have some NATO units in Ukraine that have air defense capability. And then the US would provide enablers, intelligence, reconnaissance. It would be able to provide air power in extremis so that if there were a need, the US could be considered an over-the-horizon presence. I think those things are possible, but they are not yet quite on the table. And I think that this is what Macron and Starmer actually want to talk with President Trump about.